Hola, chicas! You have recently learned how to use the verb gustar, which is a special verb that doesn't exactly work like other verbs in Spanish. Today, you're going to learn two more verbs that actually behave just like gustar. These are the verbs interesar and aburrir. But before learning how to use these verbs, we're going to review how the verb gustar works. So here we have a sentence using the verb gustar. A mí me gustan los gatos. And you can see why, because they are very cute. Now remember, gustar, we translate to say to like, because that's how we speak in English. I would say I like cats. But gustar really means to be pleasing. And this understanding that gustar means to be pleasing helps us identify what the real subject of the sentence is. If I say I like cats, I mean cats are pleasing to me. And this is what I am literally saying here in the sentence. I'm saying cats are pleasing to me. Sentences that use gustar and other verbs that act like gustar have four distinct elements in them. The first element is the prepositional phrase. It always starts with the word a, and then it will tell you to whom something is pleasing. This prepositional phrase is optional. You don't always have to use it. It just clarifies or emphasizes who you're talking about. There is no difference between me gustan los gatos and a mí me gustan los gatos. It's just an issue of emphasis. The next part of the sentence is the indirect object pronoun. This tells you to whom something is pleasing. Remember, cats are pleasing to me. So the word me tells you to whom cats are pleasing. It's to me. This indirect object pronoun is not optional. You absolutely must include it in sentences that use gustar. Then we come to our third element of the sentence, which is gustan. This is a verb, and sentences need verbs. Sentences also have subjects, and in this sentence the subject is los gatos. Now this is kind of backwards. Notice that we usually put the subject at the beginning of a sentence in Spanish and in English, but for sentences that use gustar, you usually put the subject at the end of the sentence, and that's one reason why we get confused. So again, the subject of the sentence is los gatos, and because that is a plural subject, then I have to use the plural verb gustan. I also would like to remind you that although we have these four elements, remember, there are two sections of each sentence that uses gustar, and these sections have to match. We have the prepositional phrase. If we have one, it will match the indirect object pronoun, a mí, me. And the subject and verb have to match. Subjects of the sentence will always tell you how the verb should be conjugated. Los gatos is plural, so gustan is plural. So again, here you can see this is the structure of a gustar sentence. Prepositional phrase, indirect object pronoun, verb, subject. Prepositional phrases come in many varieties, and these are the general varieties. We have a mí, a ti, a él, a ella, a usted. I could also say, instead of a él, if I want to be specific, I could say a José, or a ella could be a Marta. I can say a specific name. I can even talk about somebody. I could say al presidente, a la jugadora de béisbol. So I can use other words besides el and ella, but they represent a guy or a girl. A usted is the formal you. If I were speaking to someone I needed to show respect to, I would use a usted. There's a nosotros. I could also say a ti y a mí. That actually means a nosotros. If I say to you and to me, that means to us. So a nosotros, a ellos, a ellas, a ustedes. I could say a los jugadores de béisbol. I could say a Marta y Beatriz for a ellas. So these just sort of are a general representation of prepositional phrases. Please remember that they have this word a at the beginning. This is something that many students forget to include, and it is important to include. If you're going to write your prepositional phrase, you need to keep the word a. So remember, these prepositional phrases have to match the indirect object pronouns. So if I say a mí, then my indirect object pronoun is me. So a mí, me. It's good to kind of memorize them as a set. A ti, te. A él, le. A ella, le. A usted, le. A profe, le. Al señor Nielsen, le. A nosotros, nos. A ti y a mí, nos. A la señora Burnside y yo, nos. Because they all mean to us, right? A ellos, les. A ellas, les. A ustedes, les. A las alumnas, les. So these always have to match. This is the prepositional phrase, and this is the indirect object pronoun. For the verb, for all that you need to be able to do for Spanish 1 is use the singular or the plural. Gusta and gustan. If you use the singular form, like for el chocolate, this is a singular subject. Remember that the subject comes at the end. It's a singular subject, so it takes a singular noun, singular verb. Bailar is an infinitive. And if you use an infinitive, it will take the singular verb. Please remember that even if I had 3 infinitives here, if I said bailar, cantar, y comer, I'm still going to use the singular form. It's kind of like an exception. It doesn't make logical sense, but it is the way that it works. The only time you would use the plural form of the verb is if your subject is plural. Like los gatos is plural, so I'm going to say gustan. So that's a review of gustar up to now, and I hope that this is making more sense as we move through it. I know that you took a quiz today deciding which one of these 2 to use, but I'm hoping that using this expression, being able to talk about other people and what they like, is also becoming clearer. Because I'm going to add 2 other verbs that act like gustar. And there are more than 2 other verbs that act like gustar, but there's only 2 that you need to worry about for the class. The first one is the verb interesar, which means to interest or to be interesting to. And I like to think of it as being to be interesting to, because that kind of prompts me to remember to use this type of expression at the beginning. So if I want to say that zombie movies are interesting to me, because I'm saying to me, I know I need to use the word me. So a mí me interesan las películas de zombies. So we're going to use the verb interesar, and it's got 2 forms, just like gustar. We said gusta and gustan. For gustar, well, now we have interesa and interesan. We've got the singular form and the plural form. You're going to use the singular form for the same reasons. The singular subject, a mí me interesa el español. Spanish is interesting to me, or I am interested in Spanish, would be another way to translate it. A él le interesa estudiar en Perú. Studying in Peru is interesting to him, or he is interested in studying in Peru. A nosotros nos interesan los pingüinos. This is plural, so we will use the plural form. We are interested in penguins, or penguins are interesting to us. So you can see that the verb interesar works just like gustar. You put the subject at the end of the sentence. That is what decides how to conjugate your 2 verbs. And because this is interesting to someone else, you're going to use the indirect object pronoun. This is required. If you want to clarify who you're talking about or emphasize, you would use the prepositional phrase. The next verb is the opposite of interest. It is aburrir, which means to bore or to be boring to somebody. Again, I like to think about it as to be boring to somebody because it helps me remember to use this indirect object pronoun. So your verbs have 2 forms, the singular, aburre, because it's an IR verb, so it'll end in an E, and aburren. So maybe, I'm sure no one would ever say this, but maybe someone would say, oh, a ella le aburre el español. Spanish is boring to her. I don't know who would ever say that, but I suppose it's possible. Or who else would say, a ellas les aburre estudiar en Perú. Studying in Peru is boring to them. I think they're boring if they don't think that's interesting, but that's my opinion. This one, though, I think we can all agree on. A nosotros nos aburren los maestros. Los maestros is plural, so I'm going to use the plural form of the verb. Teachers are boring to us. So you can see how the verb interesar and aburrir both work like the verb gustar. So now we're going to try this a little bit, and I would like you to find a partner. And you are going to ask your neighbor questions about what they like, what they're bored by, or what they're interested in. So follow the following pattern. We have the sports that you've studied in Chapter 7. We have here el béisbol, el básquetbol, el fútbol, y el voleibol. And you're going to ask for each sport, you'll trade off with your partners, if they are bored by them or interested by it, and then your partner will, of course, ask. So go ahead and take turns asking and answering these questions and follow this pattern. Okay, so you might have asked questions like, ¿Te aburre o te interesa el béisbol? I have to admit, me aburre el béisbol. ¿Te aburre o te interesa el fútbol? Well, for me, me interesa el fútbol. So we all have our own likes and dislikes. Here's the next one. Notice I'm not talking about single things anymore. I'm talking about plural things. We have los gatos, los insectos, los pingüinos, and los tigres. Again, that's los gatos, los insectos, los pingüinos, and los tigres. So I want you to take turns with your partner asking if your partner is bored or interested in these animals. So notice that because these are plural animals, that my verbs are in the plural form. You might have asked something like, ¿Te aburren los insectos? O ¿Te interesan los insectos? And maybe your friend said, oh, me interesan los insectos. ¿Te aburren o te interesan los tigres? Me interesan los tigres. Or maybe your friend says, me aburren los tigres, because she's jaded. So here's the last activity. Again, you're going to take turns with a partner, and this time we're going to be using the infinitives. We're going to be talking about the activities. So notice we're using the singular form. Okay, aburre or interesa. And here we have batear, driblar, correr, and nadar. Again, batear, driblar, correr, nadar. So go ahead and ask your partner if she is bored or interested in these following activities. So you should have asked questions that sounded a little bit like this. ¿Te aburre o te interesa batear? Oh, a mí me interesa batear. ¿Te aburre o te interesa nadar? Me aburre nadar. Because you're just swimming back and forth, right? I mean, what's going on? Actually, I used to be a swimmer, so that's fine with me. I like swimming. ¿Te aburre o te interesa driblar? Me interesa driblar. So hopefully this has helped you review how to use gustar type sentences and learn 2 new verbs that follow the same pattern.